Welcome to the Emotionally Baked podcast, where emotions and baking are the two most perfect ingredients. Hello, and welcome back to the Emotionally Baked podcast, where we talk about our emotions, all about baking something yummy in the hopes of baking it out and working it out together. So here we are on another episode. I'm so excited that you're here. And this is a fun one. I can't wait to dive in. So as you can see, it is booked and baklava. I've always wanted to make, let me just preface this. I have made baklava, but I've wanted to make it on here. It is so yummy. I love a pastry, especially if I can get it with cinnamon and nuts and all the good things that I love. It's perfect. So I'm so excited to do this. So today our recipe comes from our dailyflavors.com, and I'll post the link in the recipe below. I am going to half it and put it in a smaller, so it says a 9x13 pan, and I have a half that, like a 5x, what does this say? This says a 7x5, or I can't read that. 7x11. It's a smaller pan. It's half of it. I'm only going to make half because I don't need a full tray of baklava in my house right now, because I know that I would probably eat it and just keep eating it and keep eating it. So the recipe, if you've never made baklava before, it's a layered recipe of phyllo dough and chopped nuts. You can use walnuts, pistachios. I have pecans available to me, so that's what I'm going to use. So whatever you like. Pistachios, I think, are the more traditional, and I would love to do that. Pistachios are pretty expensive. So use what you got on hand. And there's cinnamon, butter, sugar, water, honey, and lemon. Just a little bit of lemon juice. And it's after you've layered these layers of dough and nut, you pour this, you bake it, and then you pour this yummy honeyed mixture on top. And there's different ways to do baklava. This was an easy recipe that I found, because I do like to make easy for me is good. So yeah, easy for me is good. So before we get started, I have a little coffee today in a travel mug, because I have been out and about already this day doing things. So I poured myself a coffee and have it still in my travel mug. And let's see, booked is an interesting concept, because I have a lot to say about feeling booked. Booked meaning you have a lot going on, you have a lot on your plate, but I've got a little wink to the booked topic. So let's get started on our recipe, and then we'll get into the topic today. All right, so what I've done is I've sprayed my pan, and I'm going to open my dough. Now I do buy this. This is not something that I would suggest. I mean, I don't know. I've never even thought about if you could make your dough, by yourself. Anyway, so they do come in lots of layers, and you're going to have to be patient. Be very patient with the layers when you unroll. And you've got to, mine has been sitting out just a little bit, so it's a little soft. So you've got to be patient. Roll out your dough. Layer it in your pan as you go back and forth. So I might need a knife, and because it might help me with my patience to do this. And I have my chopped nuts. I already went ahead and chopped them in my little food processor, because again, that's loud. You don't want to hear that. So I'm going to my oven is ready. I'm going to do my chopped nuts in a bowl, and I'm going to put in my cinnamon. So you want to this is what you want to get together to put in your layers. So I'm going to measure with love I'm gonna measure my cinnamon with love, because, you know, with my heart, because I love cinnamon. So I'm gonna cut my dough because it is a little soft and I want to make sure I get it into the pan correctly. So I'm gonna mix this up and I'm gonna start layering. Oh, I forgot. So I melted some butter. So I have my butter melted. So when I put the first layer of dough in the pan, I am going to smother it with butter and my little pastry brush. And then put the nuts, layer, that. Okay, don't forget the butter. Butter is important. Let me get a knife. Okay, I have a knife to help me out here. So, booked. Do you ever feel like you look at your calendar and you think to yourself, how in the world do I have so much going on? Like, so much going on. I'm feeling that way this week. It is a holiday for my kids off of school. Okay. And, okay, I've got a layer of my dough. I'm gonna brush it with, and you know what? I will have to admit here, I went to the store and I was looking, so usually with baklava, you use, I don't know how to say this, Phyllo dough? Phyllo. And I couldn't find any. They just didn't have any at my store. So I bought puff pastry. It might not be the same, but the concept is there. Now we're gonna cross our fingers. So if it looks different than yours, if you're using Phyllo dough, that's why. So I'm just gonna go ahead and sprinkle the nuts onto the pan. So yeah, I looked at my schedule and I thought, oh my goodness, I have 2 doctor's appointments 3. Oh my goodness. See, now I already forgot because I scheduled a new one. So I had a doctor's appointment. I have 1, 2. I have, my kid has an orthodontist. He has braces. And then, so I have that. My kids have off for parent-teacher conferences and for a one-day holiday, and yeah, and then all the other stuff that you have going on in life, you know. I was like, what in the world? My week is so crazy. I didn't even realize that the week was so crazy already. Yeah. So anyways, so the recipe says to layer 8 layers of dough. Donut. Sorry, I make myself giggle sometimes. So being as how I didn't, or that I couldn't find the Phyllo dough, we are going to only be doing what I have, because that's what I got. Because I'm noticing I can't, this is not pull apartable. So Phyllo dough, different than puff pastry. So puff pastry, you can see if you're watching, if you're not watching this, I will try to explain it verbally, but puff pastry is just it's a thick dough that you can use to make, you know, croissants and things like that. And Phyllo dough actually is super, super almost dry feeling. It's dry. It has kind of like a powdery feeling when you take it out of the package, and has itty bitty layers. And you could literally take with your fingernails or fingers and just like pull them apart. And it's super fun and it makes it super flaky. This, I'm feeling, will make my baklava very like puff pastry. It's going to be very fluffy. It's not going to be as flaky. I am going to have to deal with that. I don't know how I feel, but yeah, I don't know if Phyllo dough is just something, I have to say, I haven't made this in a long time. I don't know if it's something that it's just not regularly found in stores. I don't know. Maybe I'd have to go to I went to my local grocers, and they usually are really good about having the different and the unique stuff. So I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering if, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah. So when I'm feeling super busy, wouldn't you know, I went ahead and scheduled myself to do something else this week. Like, why do we do that? I am already booked, and I said to myself, Heather Dawn, you are already booked. Like, you already have so much going on, and you're putting more on yourself. Like, why? Why are you putting more on yourself? Honest to goodness, I don't know. I don't know why I'm doing it to myself. I really don't. I really, really don't. But it's just the nature of the beast, right? All right, we're gonna put this on top. This is going to be considered our top piece. With the phyllo dough I had and the small tray I used, because remember, I didn't use a big one. I used a small one. So I only got about 3 layers, which is fine. I am telling myself this is fine. I like to follow the instructions and like to do things how they should be done, but sometimes we just wing it. And that's me. All right, so what it said to do was to cut this. So how baklava looks is like a lattice. So to cut this in diamond shapes. Can my brain do that? Can my brain think about that for a second? Do I have to go straight down and then across? My brain is processing. So I guess we cut this prior to baking. Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna see if this, I'm just gonna lightly do it. Okay, yeah, so I think I'm gonna cut straight down. Ooh. So, with that being booked and having so much going on, and that, you know, busy, go. How do we take the time, or when do we take the time and say, slow down, Heather, slow down? I don't know, maybe next week. Oh my goodness. I'll say probably cutting phyllo dough would be easier because the puff pastry is a little sticky. So I will say, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, a lot going on, and I'm trying to tell myself to relax a little bit in the meantime, but it's hard. I feel like there's just so much happening, and that whole concept of like slowing down is hard sometimes. Not gonna lie. And then to top it all off, I have to plan. Well, I am planning, but I am planning this is what I was going to say, it goes along with the title, a book release party. So not only am I legitimately booked, my week is just feeling so booked, and I am actually booked. I wrote a book, y'all. Actually, not just one. I've actually written quite a few. These are just the first 3 that are coming out. These are children's books that I have written, and I am super excited. I'm super excited, and I have a lot going on. And yeah, so not only do I have like a ton of booked things, my week is booked, I've got a book to book. I've got a book release to plan and a book thing to do. It just seems like I guess, yeah, a lot going on. When you got a lot going on, you got a lot going on. All right, so I've cut all of my baklava into these beautiful not triangles, diamonds. Okay, and I'm going to put the last bit of butter, and I'm just gonna pour that over top. Pour the last bit of butter on the top. And I need to see, I don't think I just bake it till it's brown, because the phyllo dough was already, the puff pastry was already, it's prepackaged. So I just am going to put this in the oven at 350. And I'm going to watch it. Okay, so that is in the oven. And what we're gonna do now is we're going to make the kind of the honey glazed sauce that goes on the top. And it's gonna just be cooking on the stove, gonna get to a boil, and then just let it wait until that's finished. And then we pour that on top and let that sit. That's it. And then, it's literally done. We'll just let that sit. So I've got my pot here. I will put it on the stove. And I'm gonna just pour my sugar. So I got white sugar, and I'm gonna do my water. Yes, I did measure my water, but I'm trying to do half of 3/4. My brain can't do that just with, I gotta measure the 3/4 and then do half. Okay, a little bit of lemon and some honey. Now, if you always are you worried about honey sticking to your things like I am? I spray my honey with some cooking spray. I spray my measuring cup with, I can't speak. I spray my measuring cup with cooking spray before I put the honey in, so that it has an easier time coming out. So we're gonna watch. Look, woo! That just came right out. And I just have to do a light little, and it doesn't stick too bad. All right, so there we go. There's that. And I'm gonna just give it a little stir to combine before I put it on the stove. And then this is just gonna come to a boil and make that really yummy, like honey syrup glaze that goes on top of our baklava. It's gonna be so yummy. I'm gonna wash my hands. I got really sticky just now. All right, so to go along with what I've been chatting about with all this book and this and all of what we've got going on, of course, I feel like, isn't this so funny how we do this? Like, or at least I do this. I know I have a lot on my plate. I know I have a lot going on. I know there's so much going on. And then I just keep adding more. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's because, well, I think, well, I'm stressed. I might as well just keep stressing, just might as well keep going. So I decided, this is another thing. I decided that since I have a book coming out, that I would start a book podcast as well. Well, a book, it goes along with my Emotionally Baked podcast. It's called an Emotionally Baked Productions. We are starting, going to be in the new podcast year after, I'm almost there, y'all, 51 episodes. Next one, I will be doing this for an entire year. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. Oh my goodness. So, yeah. So I'm going to be doing another section of the Emotionally Baked podcast called Emotionally Booked. And that's kind of also why I decided to do this topic today, was to introduce the new Emotionally Booked podcast as well. So let me explain. Well, let me check my syrup. Okay, that's slowly simmering and that's slowly baking. So yeah, I decided to go ahead and add more to this podcast world. Not that I couldn't continue baking and talking about my emotions, because I definitely will be, but I will be doing a lot more. So I will be doing an emotionally baked section still. I will be doing an emotionally booked section, and I will be doing an emotionally blooming section, but that's not going to come out until later summer. So you can look out for that later. But you will see I have icons, a new icon on my YouTube channel and my TikTok. You can see my new icon that has the 3 sections of my podcast. And when you see the section for emotionally booked, you can see that that's what I'll be talking about. If it's baked, you'll see the little icon with the cookies. You'll see the plant for the blooming, so you'll know which one if you want to listen to it or not. So yeah, you'll see the icons and they'll be different. You can see which ones you want to listen to. So what's the concept of the Emotionally Booked podcast? Well, the Emotionally Booked podcast will be in a different setting. It'll be in my library nook, and it will be discussing emotions that certain books give me. It'll be kind of like a book review, but kind of like an emotional review of how a book has truly affected me, and kind of like where I've gone with it, and kind of what I've been doing. So the emotionally booked section of the podcast will start in the new podcast year in March, and it won't be like every week, so I'm going to start mixing in emotionally baked and emotionally booked together. So maybe one week is emotionally booked, one week is emotionally baked. So you'll get a mixture. As it goes along. So emotionally booked will be a mixture of a review of a book with mild spoilers. So I'm trying not to do any spoilers, rather than talking about how a book and the quotes and the parts of a book have shown meaning, and how the book has emotionally impacted me, and how I have internalized, and how the content has affected me, whether it's, in what ways, or like, how do we emotionally, either get through a book, or how does it affect us, versus, just the whole concept of emotions and reading at the same time, and kind of what that holds for us. So while they will be mild book reviews, it'll also be how the emotions of a book kind of, help us through certain things in our lives. Because if you're like me, if you're a reader, emotions and reading really intertwine, and they, it has really been an outlet to help me to emotionally cope. Sometimes I go in my little space and read, and kind of, and it helps me to deal with certain things, just like baking helps me to deal with my emotions. So yeah, so look forward to that. And yeah, I don't know why I do this to myself, like why I have all these things going on and then I pile more on. But you know what? That's just what we do, right? I mean, at least that's what I'm doing. I don't know. But yeah, so once I'm looking at my baklava in the oven, once it is finished, I will be getting it out here and pouring that honey mixture on top and letting it sit. Said to let it sit for 4 hours. So I'm good if we want to have it tonight for supper. So I'm pretty good for that. I think we've baked it early enough, and we'll just let it sit and marinate and just kind of, be all yummy. So this is not something that you want to eat right out of the oven. This is something that you want to bake and then have sitting, and it makes a lovely fluffy pastry. So this one again is going to be a little different in texture because I used the puff pastry. Phyllo dough, I just don't know why I couldn't find it, but I was really set on making this because I really wanted it. It's weird, like somebody, I don't know what it was. Somebody brought it up, or I saw it somewhere. I can't remember what triggered me to say I really wanted this, but yeah. All right. So we'll sit here for a few more minutes and hopefully we'll be done soon. Okay, it smells so good. Cinnamon and that mixture in the oven just is so wonderful. Okay, so there we go. We've got the layered baklava. And now I'm just gonna take my syrup and I'm gonna slowly pour this over top. This is very hot. So I'm just gonna slowly pour this over the top, making sure that I get every, ooh, it's bubbling. Okay, it's completely covered and it's bubbling just a little bit. So this is very, ooh, we got some little, we're just gonna let it, that's why they want you to let it sit. And it's gonna caramel and be so super yummy. I'm gonna lift it up so you can see it. Woo, look at that. It is bubbling. And because both things were very hot. The tray was hot and this. So I spread the honey all over and I'm literally just gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it, let it sit, let it marinate, do its thing, and that's it. And we're just gonna leave it like that. And then come back and hopefully it'll be like this nice crispy, like, because you know the sugars and the honey and it's all just kind of, it's gonna come together and it's gonna harden up. And I did spray my pan before I did any of this. Cross my fingers that it's gonna help to get it out because it is a very sticky, and I probably, did it say to line parchment? I don't know. I don't know if it said to do that or not, but I did spray the pan. So hopefully it will come out with honey, and it does make it very difficult to come out once you put this in a pan. So we're just gonna let this sit. I'm not even gonna touch it, not even gonna do anything. It's just gonna sit and be hopefully super yummy. Oh, I cannot wait. So I'm making, what else am I making this evening? I'm making some like barbecue chicken slider things. So this probably doesn't match with that vibe, but hey, when you want something, you just, right? I'm just making it. So, I know I have a lot going on, and I hope I didn't stress you out if you're listening to this and saying like, oh, she has got a lot going on and it stresses me out because I've got a lot going on. Don't want to do that. I want to just take a second to say, you know, we can be super booked up in our life and have our calendar super full. And I want to look at it in two ways. If you feel like your calendar is way too full and you need to take a break, take a break. That is something that I'm actually, one of the appointments that I scheduled for this week is on purpose to take a break, is to do a relax. I know I have to schedule taking a break, to relax and to remind my mind and my body that I've done a lot and I need to kind of, you know, to clear my head. And so if you feel like you're overbooked, maybe unbook something. And I'm looking at this week, the doctor's appointments I really couldn't unbook, but I'm gonna just tell myself, you know what, maybe one of the days that you can, like, take it for yourself, take a breath, and like, you know, go a little bit slower. And the other side I want to look at it is be grateful and being grateful for, and sometimes we don't look at it as being grateful, or, you know, like when we have a lot of stuff to do, to be grateful for it. But there are moments when I think that having stuff, yes, so many things is stressful and oh my goodness, and I want to look at it. And I was thinking about it this morning because I saw something that said, look at what's going on around you, and to look at something going on, or to look at your world and to find the joy and the good, even if it's too much and too busy. Realize that, you know, how you can be grateful for things. So I am grateful that I am able to go to the doctor, because so many people aren't able to seek treatment for the things I seek treatment for. back problems, which is what I'm doing this week, and my son's orthodontist. And I need to be grateful that I'm able to do that. That I'm able, because not many are able to have those things that they can do for their families, and and be grateful. I have the job that I have, and I have the things that are going on in my life, to be grateful for them and look for the gratitude in it, even though it's busy. So maybe take time less, or take time to book less, and to just be grateful always in all the things. So, all right, friends, thank you for joining me on this whirlwind of a podcast today, of all the information and all the things that are happening and going on. I'm so grateful for you, and that you're listening or watching from wherever you're doing that from. And yeah, so whether the salt in your recipe comes from tears or a teaspoon, just remember, we baked it out. Have a good one.